when you look at measurement's more important than ever before. What KPIs do you guys use? Do you like, and are there some KPIs that maybe you would like to have more information on? Maybe some industry KPIs do you think would be helpful?
We do. I mentioned that we do regular surveys every time a guest comes into the park, whether a member or a first-time guest or anybody in between. They will, within 24 hours, get a survey that asks them a series of just key questions as to their satisfaction with the experience, if they'd return, et cetera. We track those literally every single week. We have a dashboard that feeds into. So we track performance on an ongoing level so that we can make quick changes if we need to. But then 2 times a year, we do a deeper dive into that, where we try to understand some of the more softer sides of the answers to those questions. We do some more focus group type of research to really dig a little deeper. And we also have a mommy panel who we work with, who are familiar with our brand, they know our brand, they're users of our brand, and they help advise us as to what's current, what's working, what isn't working.
So the way that we typically use it, we use kind of a 3-pillar approach. It's acquire, activate, and engage. So really looking at the analytics around the pipeline of bringing in new enrollments, then the analytics around how folks are spending and actually engaging with us from a transaction perspective. But then that final pillar, engage, is really more of, do they like us? Are they advocates for us? And the metrics that surround that. So the lens that we use really falls into those 3 pillars. I would say, I think where the most opportunity is probably within that second and the third, the activate and the engage pillars, because honestly, the model is changing so much. So much more of our market is going online to have that digital relationship, and being able to capture kind of the issues or the opportunities around making that move or something that we admittedly need to jump more into to really understand the how and why behind getting folks more engaged on that front. Within the activate pillar, that idea of kind of the day-to-day transactional aspect, one of the most interesting ones for us is with our flexible rewards currency. How are folks using it in terms of either between gasoline or grocery, and how that can be so different based upon where folks live? The folks that are more rural and have cars have a much higher engagement toward gasoline, while those that may be more in the city or access to mass transit, you see the grocery redemptions pop up. And of course, in our business, what's more paramount than anything else is cost per point, the CPP, and how that can change very significantly based upon the different populations using that. So we watch that like hawks to really understand where the opportunity is to try to get folks more motivated in one versus the other based upon the associated cost per point. But, in terms of overall help and support, I think it's one of those where we're looking at incremental spend and defend to spend. Those are really the other bell marks of a very sound loyalty program. So Mark, anything on that front from an analytics point of view, where we're able to get members to spend more above and beyond where they're at, but even more importantly, coming out of COVID, to defend their spend, and really the best tactics around that are the right metrics. So we're all ears on that front.
Right now, since we just launched, our biggest KPIs are just signups, acquisition into the program. And then I want to make sure that we're seeing them actually participate in the program. So we're getting, qualified people signing up for the program. So that's kind of today's key KPIs for me. Longer term, really looking at frequency and average check for our customers. If we can get even just our top 25% of guests to come an additional 1 or 2 times per year, that would have a pretty massive impact to our bottom line. So it's a very kind of specific, small goal, very targeted, but it feels very achievable once we know it and we can see it and measure it.
I think the trip frequency is something that we follow, and then trips within the brand is something that we haven't followed enough right now. So I think the onset of both Vegas and Niagara Falls is something that we started to build out, where kind of building out the idea of Vegas and Niagara Falls helping to give options for those other properties on vacations, on other things to do that they really want, that they want as much as possible. And trying to measure those different visits has been definitely a challenge, but something that we're trying to push through, I think, as best as possible.
So my background is a lot in analytics, so I'm big into KPIs. I'll tell you, I kind of divide KPIs into two sections. One is business related and one is what I call customer related. Business related KPIs, what we track is impact on sales and gross margin from loyalty. Right? Then what are the transaction and sales that are tied to loyalty members? Those are business related metrics. When it comes to customer related metrics, we are monitoring engagement with the program. And that would, an example of that would be number of customers who have actually redeemed at least one voucher. Then we have things like satisfaction scores. Every 3 months since we launched the loyalty program, we are doing a satisfaction survey to understand that. So yeah, both sides KPIs extremely critical. In terms of additional KPIs, I feel like KPIs are always going to evolve. As you learn more about the program, as your business evolves, you have to keep up with it. You have to introduce new KPIs. Maybe the older KPIs may not be that helpful. So I feel we, as a company, we are very strong with KPIs, and especially with the loyalty program. But there is always opportunity to get better.
I mean, we look at so many different metrics about our customer experience. Net promoter score is something that we constantly look at for overall customer experience. But as far as our loyalty program goes, the metrics that I had mentioned, certainly enrollments is something that we continue to look at, and how we can push enrollments. Active users is very, very key, because active users are a big part of our sales, so 40% of our sales. So we certainly keep an eye on that and try to continue to push that along. We pay attention to our double points days. We do double points days usually once a month, and they usually drive between 10 and 20% lift on that day that we do a double points day, without really any lift in redemption. There are people that just seem to like to gamify the loyalty program and see to get as many points as they can. And I never really understood that until I started playing Wordscapes. And then I'm like, I don't want to use those points I earned up there. I want to see if I can get through this without them. I just want to save my points. So I kind of relate to it now a little bit. It's like, that's interesting that people look at it that way, but I think some people do. Yeah, and it never seems to hurt our sales the following days. So it's something where it's helped, but it really hasn't. We don't see any downside to it necessarily.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the ultimate KPI is our business growing? Are we growing faster than our competitors, or losing less than our competitors, in challenging demand conditions like we saw, of course, through COVID? That's the ultimate lagging indicator that we look to. If we double click on that a little bit, in terms of the loyalty program, what we look to in terms of KPIs is the program drawing in new members? Are we keeping the members that join engaged? And that means, is their share of wallet increasing? And are we keeping them in the program for a long time? Do they remain active? I mean, those are all the indicators we look for. But we're being more and more mindful of, how does that CX experience look? And that's what's going to get you to sustainability. And by that, I mean, we're trying to send different messages to different consumers at different times. How do we choreograph those in a way that they're optimized? And so that's probably the next step that we will undertake, and have already started taking some steps in that direction, is being mindful about every message we send to each consumer, so that they're optimized in terms of when we send them and who we send them to.
At the highest level, I mean, from a subscription, we measure our memberships in like attachment rates, how many clients attach at a certain rate. We measure, you had mentioned it earlier, but just what we would call the cross trial or cross sell. If you come in for laser hair, how many people then try Botox or anti-aging? And so we've got kind of a whole customer journey built, but we look at those KPIs and helps drive the business. 10,000 feet higher, we really focus on what it costs to get new clients, and so our funnel is incredibly strong. I mean, we'll spend $300 or $400 to get a client, but we'll get $2,000 or $3,000 out of them, on their first purchase. And so we've got a whole digital team, a team that came out of the credit card industry that's really focused around our cost to acquire, the cost to keep. And then lifetime value, we are putting in strategies as you decide as an executive team, just measuring things in a lifetime value perspective. What can we do that gets you coming 6 months longer, 12 months longer, 24 months longer, buying one more thing during the year.
Absolutely.
Those basically, and then there's sub tactics, but those are the kinds of things we look at in this our company to drive value?
I'll start with the most basic KPIs for us, which is our comp sales and comp transactions. So, again, we look at that on a daily basis, weekly basis, and monitor that. Second piece is when, again, a little bit farther out from the specifics of the question, talked about SMG. We're managing the KPIs related to guest satisfaction through that on a weekly basis as well, and monitoring every store for their overall satisfaction and intent to recommend. We score really, really high in the fast casual. We're probably top one or two usually in most areas of that. So keeping that going is important to us. Other things we look at as it relates to the loyalty program, I didn't talk about, again, we still participate and do double points days on a regular basis and give those double points for every dollar you spend on those days. We monitor that because we see not only do the day that we have a double points day have big sales, but we actually see the tail of that over the next few days in terms of the transactions and a little bit higher frequency of when the people return. So that's another key thing we're looking at every month to see how we did on every double points day. On an ongoing basis with the loyalty program, we're growing it every month. So we have some targets that we try to look at on a per restaurant basis with signups for every month. And then again, we use the loyalty program. Again, another way we use it is kind of gauging our grand openings. Every grand opening, we leverage the loyalty program and the Craving Credits app. We give away free chicken salad to the first 100 guests who walk in our doors. And as we opened 40 restaurants last year, we'll open 40 to 50 this year. And so every restaurant opening has 100 guests get the free chicken salad, but to get the free chicken salad, we deliver it through the app. So you have to join the app. And then every month when you're going to get your free chicken salad, it's free chicken salad every month for the year. You're going to redeem that through our app. And so again, that's a way of kicking off for any new restaurant and an immediate group of people who are in the app that then we can kind of grow off of. And so how many people did we get to sign up? And ultimately we'll know based on that day and the traction behind the first 100, kind of give us some ideas of how that restaurant's going to perform over time. So again, there's probably a lot of things there, and there's way more data that we haven't yet leveraged.